All right, Brother Anthony, come on up, man. Make sure you're on. Am I
I
good
just turned
now?
it on.
Okay. All right. Tell everybody your last name, because that's where we lost.
DeTolo.
Okay. Good luck with that. Okay. Brother Anthony, take it. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank you guys for just giving me the opportunity to speak and show you what God's done in my life and how far I've came. I'm going to just give you like a story, basically a run through my life to show you how bad I had it at one point and where God's brought me from. My name's Anthony, and I'm from Toms River, New Jersey. I grew up in a great home in an incredible town on the beaches in New Jersey. I was very spoiled as a child with my parents giving me whatever I wanted all my life. As a child, though, I did not grow up in the church. My family viewed Sundays as a time for sports, whether it was playing them or watching our favorite teams on television. As a child growing up in New Jersey, I was actually raised Catholic. This means that we had to attend Sunday school in order to make our confirmation, which would give us the right to get married into the church. Well, like I said, Sundays were more geared towards sports, so I'd miss at least 3 out of every 4 Sunday school classes just attending enough to get by. Following my confirmation at age 15, I never attended church or had a relationship with the Lord ever again. I did it and up till 15 because I was told to. I never really sought after him or anything like that, and it stopped the day that I received my confirmation. When I started to attend high school, I started to really excel in all areas of sports. I became so full of pride that I thought I was on top of the world. At home, my parents would let me get away with anything as long as I scored a touchdown or got 3 hits in the game. In high school, I began to excel in sports, and I was always hanging around the older, more popular kids just because of my athletic abilities. After the games, they would take me out with them, and they would begin to buy us beer, and we'd party a lot. It was the older kids, when I was a freshman, would start taking me out, the seniors, and introducing me to alcohol. That's really where it all began. After the games, the parents, they were the ones that were actually buying the beers and letting us throw parties at their house. They thought it would be safer for us because we wouldn't be drinking and driving. They were providing the alcohol and the place to drink it. This was an expected thing that went on in my town. As long as we won the game, the guys on the team's parents would buy us the beer and let us throw parties at the house. This went on the entire 4 years I was in high school. I graduated high school and went off to college to play baseball at Seton Hall University. It's a school in the Big East. I thought that was it, that I had made it. Me and the other guys on the team thought we were on top of the world. We were traveling the country to play baseball, staying in major cities across the country with nothing but baseball and partying on our minds. I began saying to myself I could do this forever. Again, the pride got in the way. I didn't see it back then, I see it now, but it all started with pride, and the pride will come right before the fall. It was then during a summer league that I hurt my shoulder with a slight tear in my rotator cuff. This was the first major injury in my career. Being that I wasn't even into my first full year there, I began to worry in a way that consumed all of my thinking, and any addict will know that it's just the way we think. It consumes everything. After getting the results of my MRI, I was presented with a choice by the team's trainers and physicians. I could have the surgery and be out from anywhere to 12 to 14 months, or try rehabilitation and pain pills to tolerate the pain. Being that I was afraid right from the start because it was my first injury in my career, I chose the route to go with the physical rehabilitation and the pain pills simply because I wouldn't miss any time on the field. Biggest mistake I ever made. The first time I ever took a pain pill, something you fear happened inside of me, a feeling that I immediately fell in love with. From the first time, I became instantly hooked on pain pills. Within a month and a half, I let pain pills consume every aspect of my life that was possible. I began to miss practice and not care about anything in life. Within 3 months from the time that I took my first pain pill, I took myself off the team, took myself completely out of school. After leaving school, I went back and lived with my parents without them knowing about my addiction. When I came home, they knew something happened. They thought it was a girl. And the whole time I had a pain pill addiction that was pretty severe. And they quickly soon found out, and they kicked me out to live on my own. My parents were real strict when it came to like drugs and alcohol. They kind of looked away from it. So when they found that out, they basically said, all right, you're 18, you're on your own. I quickly began to realize that I needed a real job to survive in this world. From a young age, I was always infatuated with gambling. It was a part of my family business, and I had an uncle who had been in the casino business his entire life. He suggested that I attend casino school and obtain my dealer's license so I would have a step up and begin my career at an early age. I actually graduated Ace Casino School 3 months faster than any other student there, and my uncle got me a job beside him at Bally's Casino in Atlantic City. I fell in love with the job and the lifestyle immediately, but along with great success came great failure. My drug addiction spiraled completely out of control once again. Life was nothing but a 24-hour party of drugs and gambling. This went on for 2 straight years, of which today I don't really have much recollection of it. It felt like 2 days, and it was 2 years of my life. I eventually got fired from Bally's because of my drug use and cried out to my parents for help. They thought it would be best for me to move out of New Jersey and start over somewhere else. I had another uncle who was the head of a marketing firm that represents AT&T's U-verse division, so they sent me out to Green Bay, Wisconsin to work in their Midwest sales team. I actually sobered myself up and locked myself in my aunt's house for a month. I gave her my keys, my phone, everything. When she would leave, she would put the house alarm on, and I told her to do this so I wouldn't go out. The detox was really painful, and it lasted a month long. But when they moved me out to Green Bay, Wisconsin, it doesn't matter where you go, your problems go with you. When I arrived in Wisconsin, I was clean and off drugs. Within 3 months, I had excelled greatly and was promoted to an assistant manager. I was sent to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to become certified as one of the assistant managers, and once again, pain pills found me. I met a colleague from AT&T, and my past love of pain pills ended up being the topic of conversation. I'll never forget, we were outside, and I heard the guy say, I wish I had a Brett Favre cocktail, and I wish I never asked what that meant, because he told me it was a Percocet and a beer. And when I heard him say Percocet, something just triggered it in my mind. Within 24 hours, I was in his doctor's office with him, meeting his doctor to be prescribed pain pills once again. With the injury that I had playing baseball, I can walk into any doctor's office with your medical records and they'll give you pain pills. It's terrible. When I went back to Green Bay as the assistant manager with a full prescription in my hand, the pills gave me more confidence than ever to do the job. When I took pain pills, I don't know how to explain it. It enhanced all my senses. I used to tell people it's like that movie, The Beautiful Mind, where my mind would just work and work and work. My sales not only shot to the top of the state in Wisconsin, but I was actually the #2 salesman in the Midwest region. They quickly opened up a new office in Madison, Wisconsin, and promoted me to their manager of their sales division. From the first day in the office, we set records for opening week sales in a new market, but in reality, I knew it was the pain pills giving me that extra edge that I needed. After making Madison the #1 office in all of Wisconsin, the AT&T big shots in marketing came up with an idea that they would take the best of the best and form a traveling sales team in order to expand and open up more U-verse offices nationwide. I was selected to join the team and travel the country for free, teaching new sales associates how to sell their U-verse product. They gave us the title as National Sales Trainers for AT&T's U-verse division. This is when life began to take a turn for the worst. When I left Wisconsin, I was unable to see my doctor on our regular visits. I began to panic before I could realize I could obtain prescription medicine wherever I was. Every time they would move me into a new city, even if it was in a similar state, I would get a doctor. And they would give me drugs that shouldn't be prescribed to anybody unless you're dying of cancer. They were the strongest ones that you could imagine, and I would have multiple doctors throughout multiple states, and it was slowly killing me. Every time I would enter a new city, I would end up with a new prescription. This was the beginning of the end for me. My addiction rapidly went to a place where I had never been before. Pills had taken over every part of me, and I was now doing things that I would never have thought I would do. This went on through 2 years, through multiple cities and multiple states, until it came to a crashing end in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Florida is the prescription pill capital of the world. At this time, it was so easy to go there that they had it in the back page of their newspapers, how to obtain MRIs and get prescription pills, just in the back of their newspapers. I began to party harder than ever, with easier access than ever before. It wasn't long before I had multiple doctors throughout the state of Florida. AT&T began to realize I was out of control. The first 2 years, they were actually okay with the situation because I showed up to work every day and excelled in my job. When you work for a company like AT&T, you're just a number to them. So as long as you're making them money, they don't really care what you're doing. They knew the whole time. But now I was barely making it into the office. Soon a phone call went home to my uncle, who was in charge of their marketing division, and he immediately had me fired. Now I was on my way back home to New Jersey. When I came back home, I was a mess, and my family admitted me into a rehab center for the first time in my life. I completed a 28-day program and then a 90-day halfway house. My family admitted me. I didn't want to go. So when I went for them. And if you go for anybody else but yourself, you will never succeed. I ended up staying sober for over a year, but the entire time I was completely miserable. I knew I was missing something in my heart. I didn't understand how you can be sober, live this way, and just feel miserable every day. During this time, I was working at a high-end seafood restaurant on the shores of New Jersey, making just as much money as I did when I was with AT&T. I thought I had it made, and the pride came back. I had a really nice house on the water, and for the first time I was doing all the right things, but it didn't last for long. One day I thought about the money that I actually had saved up, how I thought I started to turn my life around, a nice house on the water and all those materialistic things, and how it had been over a year since I had done any type of pill. I thought I was rewarding myself, being that I had been doing so great, by taking a few pills one day because I was so bored. Within 30 days, everything was gone. All the money that I had in the bank, job, everything. I kept telling myself that I was okay because I kept up with my bills and still had enough money to continue to get high on pills. The restaurant business, for me, was a drug addict's dream job, because you'd walk in at work at 1 o'clock, you'd be out by 9, and I'd walk out with $300 cash in my hand every day. I lived on the beach, and in the summer, there's so much traffic from the tourists that it's better for you to take a cab to work because you can't find parking. It's like $40 a day to park. I'd make $300. Let's say I'd walk out at 9 o'clock at night. I didn't have $10 to pay for the cab the next morning. I would have to walk in, find a friend to ask to borrow $10 until I took my first table. All my money went to drugs. It was so easy for me to continue living as a productive member of society, as that's what I thought. But once again, I had a closet drug addiction problem. This all went on until November 2012, when Hurricane Sandy hit the Jersey Shore, and my house and my entire town was wiped out. In less than 24 hours, I lost my home, my car sank, and my job got washed away by a hurricane. I lost everything. Everyone I knew was left homeless. I cried out to my parents once again for help, but they wouldn't let me move back in because they knew that I was still doing drugs. And to them, they just said, if you want to live like that, you're going to have to learn to live on the streets. It was tough love. And they said no right away because they knew I was doing the drugs. I didn't know what to do. An old family friend gave me a call. He offered for me to come stay with him in Goldsboro, North Carolina. He didn't know about my drug addiction because my family always kept it a secret. My plans were to come stay with him for about 90 days until they restored power to my town and started to build back up from the disasters of the hurricane. God must have had other plans for me, because the 6th day that I arrived in North Carolina, I was arrested for calling in false prescription medication, which is a felony. But luckily, God saved me from that too, because I got that dismissed. After being arrested, I was put on probation here in North Carolina for 18 months and was told that I couldn't transfer the probation back to New Jersey. So I was stuck here for at least another 18 months. I went into a state of depression and turned completely to drugs to fill the pain. My uncle kicked me out, and I was forced to get my own apartment here in North Carolina. After months of doing nothing with myself, just working and drugs, I began to realize I wanted to get help. I'll never forget the day I hit my knees right on my couch and just started crying out to God for the first time in my entire life. And he heard me right then and there. My mom, I ended up calling my mom, and I have a younger brother that was struggling with addiction too. And she told him, or she told me that he was actually checked himself into a place called Teen Challenge in New Jersey, and it was the best decision that he ever made. And it was a Christ-based recovery center. I didn't even know they existed. You know, when I thought of recovery, I thought of AA and NA, and I had been through it before, and I didn't want to hear it. But when she told me it was Christ-based, from that day that I hit my knees and started praying, I don't know, I can't explain the feeling that came over me. Once they told me it was Christ-based, I was all about it. And I had done some research and found out that there was a teen challenge in Greensboro, North Carolina. I began to call on a daily basis to try and get myself into the program. After about 2 weeks of calling nonstop without any return phone calls, I gave up on the program. It's so hard to get in there. It's truly a blessing if you're able to do it, because we get thousands of calls from every state there is, people wanting to come through the program. But it got me really frustrated, and in my mind, I gave up on it. But I did want to continue to try and find a treatment center, so I found a 90-day program. I called and was accepted right away, so I packed my bags and began to drive for admission. The night before I left, I kept having this thought go through my head saying that 90 days wasn't enough. I remember sitting in my room and I was watching TV, and I would look at the TV, but all I heard was 90 days wasn't enough. And looking back on it, I know that was God speaking to me, and he wouldn't leave me alone with it. Again, in the morning when I packed the car, I heard the same thoughts come over me saying, once again, 90 days isn't enough. But I continued to ignore it. As I was driving towards the 90-day program, I received a phone call from a number that I didn't recognize, and I actually picked up the phone. When people call me, if I don't have you in my phone, I don't ever answer. So for me to answer that, I don't know what came over me. I picked up the phone. It ended up being my brother's Teen Challenge director back in New Jersey. He began to tell me how my brother was worried about me and was talking to him, and he told me how I wanted to get into the Teen Challenge Greensboro, but I couldn't get in touch with anybody. This is when I realized this is God working through another person. He had asked me to take a look at my GPS and see if I was close to Greensboro Teen Challenge. I'd been driving for about 2.5 hours at this point. I'm not from North Carolina, so I didn't know which way I was going, I didn't know if I was towards the mountains, the beach, anything. When I put in the GPS, when I entered the address, it said I was 10 minutes away. And I thought it was broken, so I entered it again, and it said I was 10 minutes away. I ended up being 10 minutes away after driving across a state for 2.5 hours. He told me before I went to the other program just to go knock on the door and see if there was anybody I could talk to. So I listened and just showed up and knocked on the door. When I walked in, I was able to talk to the intake coordinator over there at the Teen Challenge. I told him about my situation and how I was about to be admitted into a different program in about an hour, and he told me not to do it. He had recognized my name from all the calls for those 2 weeks, and he told me that he liked how I was really persistent, and he gave me the application and told me if I was to wait until Monday that he would accept me into the program. After looking back over the events, I know now that the voice I heard in my head was God himself. Even when I looked past him with the thoughts he was planting in my head, he found another way to reach me. When I looked to see how I had driven across the state for 2.5 hours and received a phone call from a man I had never met or talked to, I know that was God telling me that Teen Challenge was the place that I needed to be. If the guy was sitting right there, I couldn't tell you what he looked like. I hadn't spoke to him since. I wrote him a letter when I was in there thanking him for that phone call. But but that was God working through somebody else. I was led here and saved by the grace of God, and for the first time in my life, I surrendered myself to God, and I opened my heart to Him fully and obtained a full relationship with Him. That's the most important part of the whole thing, the relationship. He's ripped the evil and bitterness out of my heart, replacing it with true joyfulness. That's what I was missing the first time. I wasn't joyful. I didn't have God. I was sober, but it was a walking time bomb. I was going to explode at one point. He's given me everything I was missing in life, and I owe everything to God the Almighty. After graduating Teen Challenge in November of 2014, the program director came up to me and offered me a job. At first, I laughed at him. I said, why do you guys want me to work here? This Bible stuff is all new to me, and I've only been doing it for 7 months of my life. He told me it's not about how many scriptures you can memorize, about how you can preach the word. He said it's about the change within and taking everything that you've learned and walking it out and applying it to your life. So I accepted the job and began working as staff member at Greensboro Teen Challenge in November of 2014. Since then, my life has hit a whole new level. I have true happiness, peace, and most of all, a new heart, a heart for others, not just for myself. And I owe it all to God because now He is working through me, and I get to help change through the Word of God these guys' lives that I can relate to on a daily basis. Since then, I've been working there for about a little over 2 years now, I think. I became one of the supervisors there, and I get to work with guys in addiction and teach them that there's only one way, it's through Christ. And in Ecclesiastes 4:12, it says, a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. For three is even better, for a triple braided cord cannot easily be broken. For me, when I was alone, I was a mess. I didn't even realize that I was alone most of the time. But now I can stand back to back with God and conquer my addiction. And for the triple braided cord, it's all you guys that are here, the church, the Teen Challenge staff members. And for me, that cord can't be broken. I'm going to be coming up on 3 years clean, and I would have never thought in a million years that God could do that. And that's why I know God is real. And if you turn your life and fully submit to Him, He will deliver you from whatever your addiction is. And thanks for letting me share, guys.
Appreciate that, Anthony. That's good, boy. Love the power of God. Amen. All right, to live stream, take care. Those of you that sent me emails, numbers, and addresses, there'll be groups to contact you this week. God bless you, and we'll be praying for you.